This is easily, by far, my favorite rigging job. Kayak setup all the way across the board. So I'm excited to see what we can do this year on the water with this setup. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Y'all have no idea how excited I am to bring you this video to show you the ins and outs of my 2023 Hobie Pro Angler 14360. This is my tournament rig. This is the kayak that I will be in for 95% of what I'm doing this year. And you guys, the Dugout Bait and Tackle truly outdid themselves on this kayak. I can't even wait to show you these details, show you what we did. We made some pretty big changes from last year. I loved my setup last year, but this year, those guys are always learning. They're always improvising on things. I'm coming up with ideas of things that I like that work better with how I fish. They're all about customizing your kayak to fit your needs, and that is what they did with this right here. So without further ado, we're gonna get into it. So right off the bat, I've always ran a deck kit on my kayak, some sort of a mat system, and the importance of that, couple of things. First and foremost, it's quiet. Kayak fishing has an advantage because we are able to give this really stealthy approach to bass fishing. Well, if you drop things on these plastic holes, it gets pretty noisy, and any type of mat kit on your kayak is going to help soften that and dampen that sound. Not only that, it's a lot more comfortable if you like going barefoot like me and it gets really, really hot out. Lastly, they look incredible, especially this marine mat kit that I chose for this kayak. This is a custom mat that I did with marine mat. They offer this topo style for any of the kayaks that they make. I thought these lines looked really, really good. I chose the neon yellow to kind of underlay these colors and complement my pro angler. The Dugout has these kits right now for the Hobie Pro anglers, both the 12 and the 14, not only in this color for the green, but they also are going to be stocking a kit for if you have a blue PA 12 or 14 360. You guys can choose either the topography style that I have right here, or they're carrying a fish scales, which I'll show you a picture of here. Both kits really give these kayaks just a pop and make it for a really neat aesthetic for those custom rigs. So I'll link both of those mat kits in the bio. P.S. you guys, everything that I'm talking about here, I will link so you guys can find it. If you have questions on something I didn't, please drop it in the comments. I try to get to those as I can. So moving on, the second really neat thing I did to customize this kayak, I took my personal best tiger muskie from a couple of years ago, and I took the photo, sent it to Brandon at Kayak Cushion, and I got my own muskie kayak cushions for this kayak, tiger muskie, which I think look amazing. I was pretty excited about this. I didn't get a replica of that fish, so it's kind of neat to have a beautiful tiger muskie incorporated in my kayak as I'm bass fishing, ironically. It'll help me feel like I'm out there muskie fishing. So this is my kind of custom design. I'll link that in the comments as well. Kayak cushions, you guys are, if y'all haven't had them, those of you who do, help me out in the comments. You gotta have these. The seat is great, but this cushion, if you're sitting all day long, I'm telling you right now, well worth the investment. So that's the stuff I did for comfort and for aesthetic. Let's get into the actual rigging and what I've got going on. And because I want to, we're gonna start in the back. All right, you guys, so there's a lot of motor options out there in competitive kayak fishing or even recreational kayak fishing. Motors, believe it or not, are becoming one of the top accessories people are putting on kayaks. You can do two different styles. You can do a bow mount trolling motor up front or one of the electric kind of little outboard style motors on the back. I've been with Torqeedo for several years now. I've ran the 1103 for 3 years. For how I fish, it suits my fishing style. It cuts through vegetation. At its top speed, it takes this thing about 6.5 miles an hour. I can cover a ton of water. If I'm doing single access river floats, I can also utilize this to get me up super heavy current so I'm not having to set up a float and get an Uber to do that. So I love this motor, had it for a long time. And just like last year, I'm using foot control steering. I wholeheartedly believe that foot control steering is the way to go if you have it rigged right. Think about hands-free fishing, making casts without having to worry about any extra dial or anything else. I've had a couple people say they prefer the hand steering. Dugout offers that as well and can rig it up for you, or send it your way and you can rig it yourself. But for me personally, I'm a shallow water power fisherman. I like covering water, moving fast. I can literally do anything with the foot control steering and have hands free, which for me is huge. Another thing, no matter what motor you buy, if you decide to go this route as opposed to the bow mount, y'all have to get a rock guard. Let me show you something. Y'all see that? What's wrong with this? One, this is bent all the way in. It's missing another prong. The paint is gone from my 2022 rock guard that I had on this motor. That would have been a lot of busted props. So Innovative Sportsman makes the rock guard. I've ran this thing for 3 years. If you're gonna invest the money in a motor like this, gotta have one of these, you guys. Protect that investment. This thing has straight up saved me in so many situations. I go in some really skinny places, make contact with rock, wood, and all that stuff. This protects that investment. They also make a grass cutter, which I have on the front of this motor as well, which is another really good idea. But at the bare minimum, get the rock guard if you're running a motor like this. So that brings me to my next part and what Dugout did when hooking up my steering and my pulling system on this Torqeedo 1103. Jamie went above and beyond with this thing right here, you guys. He found the perfect size premium pulley plus this sailing line, which he carries at the Dugout, to help lift this motor, because that thing's pretty heavy, lift this motor up and down 1,000 times easier than it was last year. If y'all remember how I did it last year, I literally just took and pulled it directly back and clipped it onto something. The way we have this rigged, I'm really excited about, and I want to show you guys this. So not only are we incorporating these pulleys, which make it lifting this motor up and down an absolute breeze, but we also used a ring and 2 H-rail mounts so that I can secure my motor in a position just like this. If I want to trim it up and run it super shallow, I now have the ability to do that. And I'm going to show you guys what that is right here. So I've got this ram ball clamped on the H-rail here, and I've got one mounted to my track system here for my camera mount for recording my tournaments. When this ring right here, I'm going to show you how easy this is to lift on and off. Look at that. Effortless. When this ring right here is clamped onto this ball, that is when my motor is trimmed up and I can run it in super shallow water. When I pull and leave it here, that's when the motor is in its up position, and that pulley system, which runs all the way up to the front of the kayak, there's I think 3 or 4 pulleys here included in this, that helps me lift that motor with ease. I'm obviously going to show you guys a video of this thing completely rigged out, how I have it for tournament day. But just wanted to show what I use for filming on the water or on my tournaments. I've been running this Ram Mounts Tough Pull for 4 years now, 4 or 5. I've got a separate video on that, but just real quick, I will link this stuff in the products in the bio as well. This is the Ram Tough Pull. It's on this track base, super stable. And how I record and run my GoPro all day, Dakota lithium power box. This thing has a light on it. It's got a 12-volt charger, and then 2 USBs so I can charge my cell phone and run a GoPro all day long. This thing lasts several days. It just fits right here in the back of my kayak. My Torqeedo battery's here, H crate here, and I've got plenty of room for anything else I might need. All right, you guys, moving forward. Couple different things this year. One thing is staying the same though, using the Fischer mount once again, mounted on my H-rail. This mount, for the money, I think is the best you can get out there. Dugout carries these. They sell a ton of them every year. You all have great feedback on this mount, seem to really, really like it. It's just easy. It's super lightweight. It removes and can stow in the kayak, or you can take it off. I'm running the perspective mode mount this year also. I didn't do that last year because I had the 32, got the 34 this year. So I'm able to do perspective mode very easy with this setup. This mount, for the money, is the best kayak fishing LiveScope mount out there. Dugout carries a couple more options. I know some of the guys are running, I believe it's called the sniper mount. I think it comes in at $400 though, so it's a little steeper in price. However, I did get to check it out when I was at Dugout. I will link that so you guys can see it. I'm just sticking with this year because it worked great for me. That one, the engineering on it is pretty incredible, which you have to imagine for $400. So I'll link that there too in case you guys want to check it out. If y'all have used that sniper LiveScope mount, please drop me a comment below so I can get some reviews on it. I've only had a couple buddies run it. Good things so far though. But I'm sticking with this again. and let's get into the electronics I'm running because there is a big change there as well. All right, so we did change the way that we mounted these graphs. I'm still doing 2 graphs, still doing them on this shorter H-rail across the front of the kayak. You guys, that just for me is the best place to not only put my graphs, they're out of the way, they're easy for me to see. I like having all the space on the H-rail open. That works really, really great. So I did go back to running the 2 graphs up front, but one difference from last year, we changed the mounting brackets. These are the Tim Percy mounting brackets. You can loosen them really easy. They hold the graphs up. So if I am traveling on the road, I can just loosen that and tilt that forward with ease. So I'm really impressed with these mounting brackets. Really, really like them. Dugout's starting to use these on all of their custom rigs. So definitely a nice improvement over last year's setup. Another thing you can probably tell, this baby right here is a little different than this. Last year I ran 2 Garmin 106 SVs. I'm gonna run 1 Garmin 106 SV, and then I upgraded to an 8610 SXV. So why did I do that? Here's the deal. I've been reading some crappie fishing forums and hearing this talk about how much better the clarity, resolution, pixels, what have you, is on this unit. Garmin markets this to a lot of their saltwater anglers, but a lot of guys that are specifically using LiveScope have made the jump to this. It starts up like that, and I've used it 1 time now, and you guys, the resolution on this thing is incredible. So me having a goal to utilize my LiveScope a little bit more, maybe not in tournaments, because again, I do so much shallow water visual cover fishing, but I know the importance of learning and understanding and using my LiveScope a little bit more. So I wanted to get this to really spend some time dialing that in. So I did make that jump to the 8610, and I'll be running just LiveScope and probably a chart if I'm not using LiveScope on this graph, and everything else will be ran right here. And while Jamie was rigging this up, had several tournament guys in the area, Atlanta area, come in and say, you're gonna be super happy with this thing right here. And like I said, first time I got it out in the water, I noticed an immediate difference. I saw my bait much better, further out, longer distance. So that definitely means I'm gonna catch more fish. Probably not, but either way, I'm excited. So doing that a little bit different. Another thing I want y'all to note real quick, when Dugout rigs kayaks, that's what they're known for. I know so many of you guys have taken your setups down to Dugout to get them rigged and customize them just to your liking by the very best in the business. They literally do not take shortcuts on anything. Even with the wiring on the graph, you can see how clean of a deal this is. They took tape and shrink wrap and old rod sleeves and made sure the wires and everything stayed together. Super clean. Aside from them being like second family to me, they take care of stuff. They're super passionate about this, and they're gonna make sure you are satisfied with what they do for you all too. And again, as previously mentioned, foot control steering on either side. Dugout sells those kits as well. They can be a little tricky to rig on your own, but people have been doing it. Again, if you're in the Atlanta, Marietta, Georgia area, stop by, have them throw it on there for you. Foot control steering has been huge for me. I don't lose any rod space. I feel like I'm not cramped in the deck. It has worked so well. I'm gonna be running this for as long as I'm in kayak fishing, for sure. All right, guys, last but not least, let's take a look under the hatch. Did a couple things different here. So this right here makes me happy. I don't know if I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I did. Dugout thrives on taking the way you fish and your preferences and customizing things to fit your needs. So I told Jamie, look, last year I ran my batteries in the back. I wasn't a big fan of that. I felt like it put a lot of weight in the back of my kayak, and it took up a lot of space that I use for other things, just for how I fish. I said, I really want to run my batteries in the hatch. Well, the risk you run there, if you don't have a good system, the batteries tip over, they could become disconnected, it can get kind of messy. So Jamie made a custom tray in my front hatch that works really well for my setup. He even attached a little side bag to the inside. I can store some tools. I have a toolkit in here for everything on my 360 that I might need. And then you can see this custom piece of plastic perfectly fits my front hatch and has a built-in battery holder plus a bungee to hold my 2 Dakota lithium batteries perfectly snug. Which brings me to my next point. Last year I ran my graphs off of one 100 amp Dakota lithium. Y'all, these batteries they just came out with, the 12 volt 46 amp batteries are incredible. 2 things there. One, we found there's some issues, as most of you all might know, running your LiveScope and your graphs off the same battery. Really, really important to run that on 2 separate batteries. That can add a lot of weight to things, but these 46 amps are super light and they deliver a ton of power. So I'm running my LiveScope on 146 and I'm running both of my head units on another 46. I'll easily get a full day's worth of fishing with this setup, and these batteries are super light. Also note that good folks at Dugout use that heat shrink wrap and labeled all of my cables here, so I know exactly what's going on. Very clean, no wires hanging out. And we completely eliminated the FPV power hub, distribution hub this time, because we found that this is a much simpler solution, less can go wrong, and it's working really, really well for what I've got going. All right, guys, another thing we need to talk about right here is this guy right here. Nav lights. Anybody running a motor in tournaments or running a motor recreationally, most of these lakes require you to have your red and green lights. So the Dugout hooked me up with some incredible navigation lights. Check out how slick that is. Super bright. So most people go and waste their money on the lights that you stick up on the front that don't last very long. These lights flush really tight to the kayak. They're super compact. They're extremely bright. And they are built to last. And that's just wired right up front, plugs into this battery right here. Those will also be linked under nav lights in the bio. Again, you guys, those 46 amp hours from Dakota have made my life so much easier in terms of having a much, much, much lighter and more compact battery that delivers a ton of power. So I'm pretty happy with those. Also, you can notice I do stand on my front hatch sometimes. Those batteries are short enough I can do that without them collapsing on my front hatch. Also, I want to get y'all's feedback. If any of you think you could use something like this customized front hatch tray that Jamie made for me in here, let me know. Call Dugout, get some pricing options, ask them what they can do. For me personally, how I fish and how I store my gear, it was a no-brainer. I loved it. Curious to see what you guys think on that, or what you might do with your upcoming rigs and kayaks. That kind of runs through the changes and the basics of my 23 tournament fishing setup this year. I was so excited to share this with you guys because this is easily, by far, my favorite rigging job, kayak setup, all the way across the board. I'm so fortunate to get to work with a lot of the companies that I truly love and support. All great people, great companies. They give a lot back to the world of fishing. So I'm excited to see what we can do this year on the water with this setup. I took this thing out in the water a couple days ago, didn't really do much fishing, so I plan on taking it out and running a full day, doing a whole day of fishing, recording that, taking y'all with me on its first true maiden voyage. Really excited about that. Like I said, you guys, all of the products, everything used here, you can order from Dugout. They carry it all. You can bring their stuff in, have them rig anything. They take great care of folks, and I truly appreciate you guys showing them some love through everything. They're one of the companies that does more for the sport of kayak fishing than anybody I know. Great people. They give back to a lot of the local clubs, the big tournaments, and just anglers in general. Whether it be high school fishing programs, college programs, you name it, they're super generous, and they are by far the best in the business when it comes to rigging and outfitting your kayak. So any questions you guys have, any ideas you guys might have of things that you want to see, drop them in the comments. I'll be sure to check those and get back to everybody that I can. I so appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're as excited about this rig as I am. I can't even begin to tell you. Now it's time to get this thing outfitted, go get on the water down in Florida, and let's kick off this tournament season. Truly appreciate you guys so much. Hope you all have a blessed day, and hope you can get out in the water. And stay tuned for the first day on the water fishing with the new rig.